Okay, we are live. Let me see if this bad boy pop on the other side. Hasn't popped out yet for me. But let's assume we are live.
Yeah, we're good.
Yes,
We're good.
we are.
It's good on my end.
Okay, cool. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining the AFC North Talk. We appreciate it. I know there was a bunch of you guys waiting for us. I appreciate we're a little casually late. It's still in the 5-minute range. That's good. That's good. Anyway, thank you for joining. I'm Sonny from SZG Sports. Guys, introduce yourself.
Yeah, Tony Serino, formerly Locked On Steelers. Now this is my only gig. I like it. I like talking to you guys, interacting with the chat. It's my new favorite show.
Joseph Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. Just kidding. My name is Ace Boogie of New Stripe City. You can find me on YouTube at New Stripe City.
Joseph, you look like you had a tan.
That ain't no tan. That's something else. What's up, guys? Quincy Carrier here from the YouTube channel named after me because I'm a narcissist. So let's do it.
That's fair. Okay, my guys. Thank you again for joining. So we're going to do, I won't call around the horn, but 3 people from the opposing team is going to comment on their draft. I had the draft pick here, so we're going to go round by round. We're going to start with the Steelers because it's the quickest one. We can just get it over with. Done. They barely were there. Yeah, they were barely there. And then Tony will attempt to defend the trashy picks that they make. But
It's tough.
Okay, so first pick, Chase. So we're going to give a grade per pick, at least for the beginning. A late pick, I mean, it doesn't matter. 7th round, it is what it is, 6th round. But first pick, Chase Claypool. I'll start with Quincy. What do you think about the Claypool pick?
It's a C+. If it works out, it's going to be great. If it doesn't, he's just going to be another big body that they kind of recycled in and out there. Pittsburgh does have a reputation with developing wide receivers when they do have a franchise quarterback available. Question is, will they have that quarterback available that can aid in the development of that wide receiver, not necessarily even taking a shot there? So Chase Claypool, he could work out. He could be like Martavius Bryant. He could be a freak. And is still at that 2nd round 49 slot. He could also be another bust. But that's kind of the risk that they went there. But yeah, I would give it a C+. It's a boomer bust pick. It's not what I thought they should have, but
What would you thought they should have?
They should have went running back here. I think they should have went J.K. Dobbins or they couldn't go Clyde Edwards-Helaire because the Chiefs are just ridiculous. But they could have went Dobbins there. But I think Swift was gone by then. I think he went to Detroit.
Swift was gone, yeah.
Yeah,
but Taylor.
Akers was there.
Yeah, Cam Akers. They could have went Cam Akers. They had some options there at running back. I would have preferred, with Ben being as old as he did, maybe get him more developed, ready to go wide receiver if you're going to go there. Because, Chase Claypool, if he's ready 2-3 years down the line, who's going to be throwing on the ball?
Right.
That's a big question, but yeah.
Okay. Ace?
I think for me, I have to give it a solid B pick. It wasn't anything that I saw and just was like, oh my God, they got Chase Claypool, but he is a solid receiver. I think that was a need for them, low key. Even though we've talked about Steelers receivers in the past, I think that he was a great fit. I think that it also aligns with what they want or what Ben wants, at least from the wide receiver position, a tall guy. I kind of get Plaxico Burress vibes. So I do think he is a guy that will make an imprint in the AFC North. So I think it's a solid pick.
For me, I would say closer to what Quincy said. I think, so for me, Claypool was always, it was a boomer bust. I think his floor is very, very low. His ceiling is very, very high. And that's what I consider boomer bust. I think I agree with Quincy. They should have gone somewhere else in there. Picks that Dobbins would have been good. Obviously, Jalen Hurst. Yeah, I had to throw that one in there.
Should have gone quarterback.
Akers would have been another good pick. But if they would have won receiver, Denzel Mims would have been a guy that I think is more of a receiver type for the outside than Claypool, more polish. And the other one that I would have gone with for the Steelers would have been Jalen Johnson if they wanted to bolster that defense a little bit more.
He's a corner.
Yeah, corner.
Okay, I know you're talking about, yeah.
Corner from Utah. We talk about Hayden is getting older, so Jalen Johnson could just be there. Because Claypool's developmental, if you want to say that Johnson's developmental, although I think Johnson is more polished as a corner than Claypool as a receiver, I would have gone that route, or even Trayvon Diggs. I mean, I think a couple players that went right after the Claypool one would have been better, in my opinion, for the Steelers. But I'm okay because they they're gonna pick a guy that might bust. So sure.
Yeah. Well, here's where I come down on the Claypool pick, right? Because I don't necessarily, I actually am right with you guys. I mean, I wouldn't give it a C because, I would give the player a C because I honestly did not like Claypool coming into the draft. I rated like 10 or 12 wide receivers this year, and he was like one of the worst wide receivers I graded. There's so many things about his game that I don't like. And we talk about boom or bust, right? I know he runs 4.4. Then show 4.4 speed on tape, especially not on intermediate or short area routes, right? The short area quickness is not there. I know he's a long strider and he's got that deep speed, but we talk about short area quickness and route running, the kind of separation quickness you want. He doesn't have that. So I have a lot of questions about him. But here's the thing: the Steelers are so good at picking wide receivers that I'm going to trust him, right? And so I would give this pick probably like a B minus, right? Just because I don't like the pick. I don't like the player, but I trust the Steelers and their wide receiver evaluation. So what I like about this pick, though, is what he brings to that wide receiver room. And Kevin Colbert, the general manager for the Steelers, he talked about this. He said, look, what the Steelers were missing last year were like big play guys on that team, right? The Deontay Johnson is going to give you – he's a nice route runner. He can get you some big plays here and there, but he's not going to be an over-the-top guy every play. Chase Claypool is going to bring that to the offense if he booms. Now, I agree with Quincy. He's got to get on the same page with Ben Roethlisberger. And Ben and rookie wide receivers have not gotten along recently. Even Martavis, it took him midway through the year before those two really got together. And then it was his second year when Martavis really, boomed. So, and especially in this offseason where there's not going to be a mini camp, there's not going to be OTAs, who knows what training camp's going to look like. I think you guys are right. It's going to be tough to get Claypool integrated into the 2020 offense. So he's going to have a specialty role there. I think he's going to be brought in as kind of a deep threat only. Can he develop some of the other skill sets he's going to need to be a well-rounded wide receiver? Those questions are still wide open for me. So I'm also going to give the pick somewhere in the B range.
Yeah, you kind of reminded, like, he kind of reminds everybody of like the DK Metcalf pick that slid into the second round.
Yeah.
But my thing with him is like he had less than 1,000 yards at Notre Dame, and like Notre Dame's not playing top tier competition in their out of conference schedules.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about 60 yards against Boston College. Against Virginia, he got held to 30 yards. That was a ranked team. 66 yards against UGA, the University.
Yeah, Georgia. The Georgia tape is not great. Yeah, the Georgia tape is not great.
It's so, it makes me wonder, like, he can have all these attributes, but if you're not showing them against the top tier athletes, it just a lot of – this is definitely a guy who throws up a lot of red flags. He has a lot of promise. And I'm talking about, like, on the field red flags, not off the field. I clearly don't know if there's anything on that. But
is he Dorial Green Beckham 2.0, or is he going to be Miles Boykin? I think is the question that you guys are going to be asking yourself.
Right. Yeah. And there's no pressure for him to come in right away and start, right? So he's going to have some time to develop. But no, I think all the questions you're talking about are they're accurate. I just think I'm just going to lean on this kind of the Steelers no wide receivers, and I think that's why I trust the pick.
Yep. So the next pick here is Highsmith.
Highsmith.
Sorry.
Alex Highsmith from Charlotte.
Yes, from Charlotte.
Wow, Sonny.
I know. I botched that one very badly. Very Highsmith. Sorry. Okay, so Q, what do you think about Highsmith?
Look, when the Steelers draft the outside linebacker, I really don't ask questions. I have more faith in them with outside linebackers in the 3-4, similar to my faith in, Ravens when they draft outside linebackers in 3-4. They generally do a good enough job. They don't draft like really bad players in those positions. Highsmith, he's probably going to be a solid rotational guy. What was this, a third-round pick?
Third round, yeah.
Late third round.
Compensatory third round.
Realistically, let's be honest, he's competing with Ola for his spot on the roster right now because Ola Adini needs to probably step up if he wants to play here. So he's probably competition for that spot. Rotational special teams guy. Third round pick, that's a little low for a third round pick, but I'm used to expecting these guys to play. The Steelers kind of run on a different philosophy there. So 2-3 years down the line is really what you're looking at, and I don't really see him starting or taking anybody's spot. So I would say this is like a positive C+. If Chase Claypool was like an C+, this is like we'll see what happens here. I'm not in love with the upside of him, but you got to trust the Steelers when they get an outside linebacker to at least not be terrible.
Joseph?
For me, I think that Highsmith, for me, in terms of his player profile that I've seen him come to, is a little bit of Tim Williams. I actually loved Tim Williams when he came out, but we all know how that story ended. He did not end up fulfilling that potential. But I think, along with what Quincy said, I think that there's one thing that the Steelers know, and I think it is linebackers as well. I think that this will be a guy that won't be an impact guy, so he's not going to start right away. I think he's a guy that waits in the wings, and he's kind of groomed for that starting potential role that he may have next season. So with that being said, I think that you had to take an edge rusher in their position, especially being with the contract situation that they're in right now, especially with them getting ready to bring TJ Watt back next year, which would probably mean that they say bye-bye to Bud Dupree after this season. So I think that it makes sense because it hits a need, and it's also a player that was supposed to go within that range. So for me, I have to give that pick, I'd probably say a B-.
B- is also what I think. I think at that point, that pick makes sense. Again, I think I like the guy Troy Pride. It would have been a guy that I would, maybe target there. But because of what Ace says, I think Bud Dupree next year is gone. They're hoping Highsmith can learn under Bud Dupree for a year. Not necessarily do a lot of big things this year. It's just a pick for next year. It's a pick for next year because Bud Dupree ain't coming back.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say there's no chance Bud Dupree comes back. I mean, look, they could still sign Bud Dupree to a long-term deal this offseason. It's going to put them in a situation next year where it makes it more difficult to do the Juju deal and the TJ Watt deal, right, and fit all these guys under the cap. They're going to have to make some moves to make that.
But TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, right? Your priority.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with you.
What do you think about not doing the Juju deal and keeping both Watt and Bud Dupree? Because it seems like those two would be more important to what you're building.
I mean, well, we'll see what Juju does this year. I mean, that's why they're in no rush to get Juju's contract extended.
I wouldn't either.
If you guys had a rookie quarterback contract, you could afford him. You could afford all three of them.
No, you would have a rookie QB contract and Ben's $41 million next year. So, I mean, look, the Steelers are banking on the idea that
my point is moving on from Ben.
Yeah.
$41 million, take that $41 million. I mean, you're talking to a guy that just got out of the Andy Dalton contract, and it was only $17 million, so it wasn't even close to what Ben was. And just seeing that we're only going to have to pay Joe Burrow $6 million, man,
right?
That is a hell of a bargaining chip.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
no, I mean, look, I will agree with you, right? But I would say the same thing about I wouldn't take a quarterback now for that very reason, right? Which is that you want to be paying a rookie quarterback without also paying your veteran quarterback a bunch of money. And the Steelers aren't ready to give up on Ben Roethlisberger today. Now, if he comes out and he looks terrible, and they basically say, "Hey, man, you need to retire," then yeah, I mean, he retires. They save the money and they go out and draft themselves a quarterback. When we're talking about Alex Highsmith here, where he fits on the roster, I think you guys hit the nail on the head, right? This is not a pick so much for today as it is for tomorrow, right? Kind of leverage at the position against Bud Dupree. If they can re-sign Bud Dupree, awesome. If not, hey, we got another guy in that room. I know they like Ola. I talk up Tuzar all the time. That room, they've got some players. But what Alex Highsmith brings to the table is just a great get-off, right? I mean, he's so explosive off the line of scrimmage. He had 20 sacks at Charlotte. I know that's a small school, but if you turn on the Clemson tape, he was terrific. The left tackle there said he's the fastest off the ball of anyone he's ever faced. So he got high praise from those guys. He's going to come in, and I think where he can be better right now is just as a situational, rotational rush guy. They had this guy Anthony Chickillo there for the past couple years. Chickillo was a very good special teamer, but he brought nothing to the table as a pass rusher. So if they can be better right away in that case, and maybe it's Ola and not Highsmith, right? But at least Chickillo's off the team now, and the Steelers can have a better situational pass rusher. Because if you have Bud and you have TJ, that's fine. But at some point, those guys have to come off the field, right? One of those guys is going to come off the field because they're just too, they can't play every single defensive snap. And on those snaps, you don't want to have a huge fall off in your pass rush. And so Highsmith, if he can bring anything to the table, it's got to be there early on in his career. And then, like you guys said, later on, he can compete, for a starting position if this team does go on to let Bud Dupree test free agency next year. I'm going to give this pick again. It's a solid B plus pick for me. And look, this guy's not a guaranteed starter, or you're not going to be a guaranteed hit. But I like what he brings to the table. The questions for him are, can he turn that speed into power? Because if he can, I think he can be a very good edge rusher in this league.
Okay, so the next couple picks is Anthony McFarland, running back out of Maryland, Kevin Dotson, from Louisiana, the guard.
Yeah.
I would say the McFarland one. I thought it was a good pick. I
Yeah.
thought there's a good pick. A guy that has getaway speed. I've seen a couple games for him. He looked good. I think it's a solid pick. I don't think Connor is a long-term deal with him. I think he might be if McFarland has any life to him and Snell progresses. I think Connor's not with the team next year.
Yeah.
And then I think Kevin Dotson is a good solid pick just because you need competition for that left. I think left guard was Foster, right?
Left guard, yeah, it's gonna be a left guard.
You need competition that left guard position. The other positions are solid, but you need to bring guys to see who can pick up. And if it is Kevin Dotson, then you're great because you have a 4-year cheap player in the left guard position.
Yeah,
Quincy, what do you think about those two picks?
Yeah, McFarland was kind of a head scratcher to me. I didn't really like that pick or really get it. I feel like they have running backs on their roster right now who are just as good, if not better, than those guys. But I just think they've made their running back room more crowded. They just drafted Benny Snell last year. It just I didn't like the pick. I don't like the running back that much. I don't really like the pick there. I've seen McFarland play at Maryland. I'm just not a fan of him. And then they got a guard.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get some offensive linemen. I'm not gonna act like I watched the tape on the guy, so I'm not gonna offer that kind. But like the pick, the position there makes sense.
Yeah.
Ace,
I think for me, I wasn't as high on the Anthony McFarland pick either. I think from a perspective of looking that this guy was supposed to be a projected 6-rounder, it seemed like a little bit of a reach. The fact that he's a smaller running back, he's not really replacing James Conner, so. I think that they're saying that Benny Snell is the James Conner replacement and is going to be the guy that's going to be there. I do like what McFarland could bring possibly like in the receiving game or something like that. However, I'm not sure if it's a great fit. And then I'm not sure if you guys still have Jalen Samuels or not. If you
technically speaking,
if you do, it's just like, where does this guy fit? And I'm starting to see a theme outside of possibly Chase Claypool, where these aren't going to be guys that are really going to see the field that much this season. So for me, I think that that's the only issue with the McFarland pick is, it almost makes the Chase Claypool pick look a little bit not foolish, but they should have possibly have taken one of those running backs like Quincy said earlier, because you see what the drop-off is just a round later when you're having to pick this guy. Now, I'm not saying that he's not going to be good, but I just think if I was looking for this is a John Connor replacement, I think that that's Cam Akers or one of those other guys. I don't think that it's this guy in particular.
Yeah. Tony,
as far as the guard, I didn't talk about the guard, but as far as the guard, I think to pick that guy over Moody, I don't know if Moody was still available or not. Maybe you guys can specify, or someone in the comments can say whether or not. But if they pick that guy over Moody, I would have a problem with that, because I think that would be a huge asset to any team, especially the Steelers, even though they already have a good line. But I think that he would still. If Moody was still there, no, you can't. I even faulted my Bengals and took from us for doing that. So for me to get a guy that was compared to Quentin Nelson, that's only really there because of his injury issues, I think the Steelers would have been better off grabbing him, because that's just like a diamond in the rough. You can get amazing value by having a guy like that. So not mad at the pick of a guard, but mad at the player that was picked. So for me, I have to go with I'm going to probably have to give this one a D, Tony. So. Sorry, man.
Ouch. Well, here's the thing. These are my favorite two picks of the Steelers draft. I love these two guys. I think McFarland and Dotson are my favorites. And I know, Reed says in the chat it's another mid-round running back. And that's true, right? The Steelers have taken Connor. They've taken Benny Snell here. They took Jalen Samuels years back, and now they've taken Anthony McFarland. But what I like about this pick is that, look, yes, he is going to come in. He's going to be there with James Conner. He's going to be there with Benny Snell. He's going to be there with Jalen Samuels. But he brings something else to the room, and he brings something new to the room, right? This is a guy who runs legit 4-4. This is not the 4-4 that Chase Claypool runs, where you watch him on tape and you go, really, 4-4? Okay. But you watch Anthony McFarland on tape, and this guy is a blazer. He's a home run hitter threat on every time he touches the ball. So I like what he brings to the room from that perspective. He's going to be the starter day one? Of course not. James Conner is going to be the starter day one. But no one, honestly, if you brought J.K. Dobbins in round one, I don't know that J.K. Dobbins unseats a healthy James Conner day one. And even if he did, I still like you still had Benny Snell there. So what do you do with Benny Snell if you have J.K. Dobbins and you have Benny Snell and James Conner? They're all the same kind of running back in the room, right? I like what they're doing. I like that they're mixing up the room. You got the James Conner who's going to be, you want him to be your workhorse. Now, the problem with James Conner is he gets hurt too much. So you're going to have to put him on a pitch count in 2020. So, okay, you're going to limit his exposure to 15, 20 touches a game max. Okay, so that's what we have with James Conner. Now, you put Benny Snell in as your short yardage spell guy, right? He's going to come in and get those carries late in the game maybe that you're not going to give to a James Conner because, again, you don't want to expose him too much. Then you bring McFarland in as your change of pace speed back. And potentially, and this is my question with it, the one question I have with McFarland is, can he be a third down back? I haven't seen a lot of tape, or a lot of good tape on him as a pass blocker. Huge question mark for me. Receiving out of the backfield, another one. Although look, the guy's great in space with the ball in his hands as a runner, so I imagine that will translate to the passing game if he's got good hands. But not a lot of tape of that as well. I like the McFarland pick. The Dotson pick, again, none of us watch tape on Dotson because this is a guard from Louisiana. Okay, none of us watch tape on that guy.
Or see him play.
but the limited tape you can watch now, right after the pick, right? The guy's a mauler, right? You love that about him, right? He's a very aggressive as a blocker, probably a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. But the Steelers got good grades reportedly from around the NFL as scouts texting Sean Serrett, the offensive line coach, telling them this was a good pick. Like you said, Sonny, he provides this team some flexibility on the offensive line. Not expected to come in and start day one. It's going to be a competition between Matt Filer and Steven Wisniewski. But if he does overperform at left guard, and let's say he does earn a starting spot day one, that gives them the flexibility to move Matt Filer back to right tackle, even though the Steelers are singing the praises right now of Chuck Okorafor and Zach Banner. So these are my favorite two picks of the draft. I think McFarland brings something to the room that they didn't already have. And by the way, he's not just a speed guy. You watch the way this guy finishes runs. He's got a little power to him, too. I mean, he's not a powerful back, but he's not one of these guys who goes down at the first contact. And I like that out of my speed guys because, the guys who fall backwards, no thank you.
Yeah, I get that. I just don't see what he does that's going to make him be able to get a spot on this offense. Like, you talk about him as a receiver or good in space, like, what play would you draw up for him that you just want to give the ball to Deontay Johnson or James Washington, who I would think, yeah, you know what I mean? Like when we're talking about fit here, it's like, I get that you like the diversity and that he is fast and that, these aren't the same type of backs. I understand that, but it's just, I don't know, for this offense, man, like if Big Ben's name wasn't attached to this, I'm pretty sure we would call this a mediocre offense. It's just Big Ben.
No, they were. No, Quincy. They were without Ben Roethlisberger. They were the worst offense last year. This was the worst offense without Ben Roethlisberger.
I don't know. I thought maybe we'll just move on.
Yeah,
he's the forefront pick. I'll leave the kid alone.
So rounding up, and we don't have to discuss this much because I'm sure 6 and 7 round picks. I will leave Tony if anything. Antonio Brooks from Maryland.
Junior. Brooks Jr.
Okay, from Maryland. And Carlos Davis.
Yeah.
How did he get drafted?
So Antoine Brooks Jr. is an interesting pick. This is another Maryland kid. As we said, Mike Tomlin's kid. We said this yesterday. Today, I'll say it today. Mike Tomlin's kid goes to Maryland. So this is one of those deals where I think the Steelers had inside knowledge of the Maryland organization, and they value not just your play on the field, but off the field stuff. And how are they going to do that in a year without pro days, without being able to meet these players and meet the coaches and meet the parents and all that. So they use that to their advantage. Look, Brooks is not going to come in and start by any stretch. What he brings to the table, Kevin Colbert talked about him. He's a half a linebacker, half a safety. So he's interesting in the modern defense where you need that guy in sub packages. Maybe he fills the Mark Barron role, though I like Ulysses Gilbert a lot more for that role. Look, Brooks Jr. is going to compete for a spot on this roster. Does he get one? They don't have a lot of depth at safety right now. Colbert called him a safety. So just because of the numbers game at safety right now, yes, he probably does make the roster today, but we'll see what happens at camp. And then Carlos Davis, the problem for Carlos Davis, he's at a dead position. I mean, and that's not me saying that. I mean, that's Kevin Colbert talking about the nose tackle position in the modern NFL. There just isn't a spot for that. The Steelers lost Javon Hargrave to the Eagles. The Eagles paid him a bunch of money, but the Steelers were never going to pay that much money for a guy who was maybe on the field 40% of the time last year, and that's with Stephon Tuitt going down. So look, Davis is going to come in, compete with McCullers for that nose tackle spot. Not this again. What this says to me more, not that they picked Carlos Davis, but that they waited until the 7th round to address nose tackle tells you how they feel about that position completely. Daniel McCullers will probably come in day one and start at nose tackle. And Carlos Davis maybe makes the roster, but probably not. I mean, this is just, again, it's going to be a camp body. He's going to compete with McCullers, but this team has kept McCullers around so long that he finally can be the starter. I don't imagine, Steeler fans, this is the year we finally see McCullers get cut during training camp. I just can't imagine it.
Hey, you know what I learned real quick is that Mike Tomlin's son is a good friend because he definitely got his homeboy to hook up.
Exactly.
2 homeboys. 2 Maryland guys.
Right, McFarland and Brooks Jr.
I feel like McFarland, they actually drafted. Antoine Brooks is a hookup. All right. I watched Antoine Brooks play. Hey, man, he's a great locker room guy, Dad. You got to get him in there. You got to get my boy home. Hey, he's a good tackler. He'll let everybody get past him, though. Yeah. Get the homeboy to hook up, let him get an NFL experience, get him drafted. That's a good friend right there. Shout out to Mike Tomlin's son.
Yeah. Absolutely. Dino doing work.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go and talk about the Bengals. I think the first pick, we don't have to address it, right? Joe Burrow, I think, is an A+. I
have a lot of problems with this pick. No, I need to talk about it. I have a lot of problems with it.
Yeah, because you're ready to.
Todd, it's a terrible pick.
Yeah.
But so I think
the best quarterback of a generation.
Well, we can't skip it completely, right? We got to at least let Ace go on about it. I mean, listen.
Yeah,
Ace goes left. They got a franchise quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean it's just the perfect thing, especially today with Andy Dalton being released. It's just a sign of the times. Moving on, getting a guy in Joe Burrow that essentially is the most talked about quarterback since Andrew Luck. It's just amazing. This is a great time. It fell into our lap. And I'm just glad that we didn't try to beat Miami in week 17. So just glad to have Joe Burrow. I think that he's definitely going to be a guy that can come in and change this franchise for sure.
Was this pick worth watching? I'm going to forget. Ryan Finley for 3 weeks in the regular season.
Yes, it was absolutely worth it.
Yes, because the alternative would have been Dalton coming back probably.
Well, did you watch those games with Finley though?
My God,
Finley was the worst quarterback I've ever seen.
How did they have Jess Driscoll on the roster? It was like, you know what? Yeah, Ryan Finley's better.
Let's put Ryan Finley. So they knew what they were doing.
Finley was like Zach's guy too. I don't know what he saw in him, but he cannot play in the NFL. He's probably going to get cut. We're probably going to roll with Jake Delgado, who's our 3rd quarterback. He's probably going to end up being our backup. Because he's way better than Ryan Finley. Ryan Finley is complete.
Let me tell you something, though. The backup quarterback is the marker of the relationship the franchise have with their starting quarterback. That's how you can tell how a franchise feels about the starting quarterback. So I promise you that Ryan Finley will be the backup of Joe Burrow because they're going to pick the most sorry dude to back him up to make sure Joe Burrow does not get it confused that we are not trying to get rid of you. Man literally just had like dudes backing him up. Like Carson Palmer, did he at one time have his brother backing him up?
Jordan Palmer, yes.
Hey, Jordan Palmer's like a quarterback guru now, though, from what I've heard.
Yeah, okay. Good. Hugh Jackson was a quarterback guru. So. A lot of quarterback gurus.
Touch the nerve by that. We touched the nerve there.
So
firm quarterback guru guy.
So Barrow's pick A+ for everybody, right? That was an easy.
A+++++. Yeah, best pick of the draft.
So here's where it gets interesting. Second pick, they went and picked T. Higgins, and I can see the appeal of T. Higgins. I could have seen them going up and tried to get one of the linebackers that was sliding, either Patrick Queens or if they like Jordan Brooks. But for me, because I remember as soon as round 1 went out, I was like, okay, they're going to take, what was the tackle? There was 2 tackles. Josh Jones or Cleveland. I was like, one of those 2 guys, it's going to be the pick. They were lucky enough that one of these tackles fell to them. Miami, if you see what Miami was doing, they picked Tua, then they were trying to build O-line to protect Tua. And I was like, this is where the Bengals, they cannot screw this up. I know they in my mind I was like, I know they had to need a middle linebacker. I know Gay Jr. is out there. I know Wilson's still there, but the tackles are there. That they're gonna go with the tackle. Picking T. Higgins for me was surprising. I'm actually gonna get this pick. I think T. Higgins would have been picked more in the mid-second or later second. I would have, again, pick a tackle, maybe try to trade up to get one of the wide receivers. So I'm going to give it a B minus C plus. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, so T. Higgins, here's another guy, much like Chase Claypool, I didn't like a whole lot going into the draft. In fact, when I saw people thinking about taking him in the first round, I was very surprised because a lot of the problems, honestly, that I have with Chase Claypool, I have with T. Higgins. Separation quickness, right? This is not a guy who is an athletic freak at wide receiver. Now, he's a great contested catch guy, and I will give him that. His route running is definitely more polished than Claypool, but Claypool's got more upside. Now, I'm not going to fault the Bengals for this pick because they clearly like him. But I thought Michael Pittman would have been, for the same kind of receiver, I thought Michael Pittman was a better option. I'm going to give this in the same range as you, Sonny. I'm going to give this like a B minus. I know a lot of people are higher on T. Higgins than I was. And again, I'm not saying that I'm the wide receiver guru. I'm definitely not. So I don't love this pick, but there was a huge run on wide receiver. If they wanted one of these top guys, they couldn't wait until the third round because by the third round, all these guys were gone. Right, there was another huge run. But
remember, they had the first pick of the third round, so you always had the possibility of trading up. I like Pittman better. I think Pittman is a baller, but time will tell. Q.
I give it an A. I think sometimes we can overthink things. This is a wide receiver out of Clemson. When has that ever gone wrong? Now he does remind me a lot of Mike Williams, but Mike Williams also injury prone. Big guy can separate, but I think he's a lot more dynamic than Mike Williams is, and is a better open field runner. This guy, he's going to be good. I think he's going to be fine. He reminds a lot of people of AJ Green. He's probably got to develop a little bit, but I mean, if you're talking about guys who aren't the fastest that have found a way to get a foothold at wide receiver, the Cincinnati Bengals are the king of that. Chad Johnson, not a burner. Even if you look at the roster right now, AJ Green, he's a little bit more athletic, but then you go Tyler Boyd, not a burner at all. Wasn't a burner in college at Pitt, but found a way because he's a technician. This is going to be something that works out for him. I think T. Higgins is a good pick. We can debate whether they should have went wide receiver here. I'm not going to blame them on this pick because I think Josh Jones was still available by round 3, and that was the head scratcher to me. I don't know how Josh Jones fell. I think people overthought that one. Ezra Cleveland, if he fell there, I would get it if you didn't want Ezra Cleveland because he has no feet or hands. But, Josh Jones, I just didn't get passed on that. But that's for the next guy. This is an A to me.
So let me add something before Ace goes. Big thing is I have to push back on the Clemson receiver. D-Hop, hell of a receiver. After D-Hop, unless I'm forgetting anybody, I feel like all Clemson receivers have underperformed.
Sammy Watkins.
No, Sammy Watkins,
Martavis Bryant Martavis Bryant before the weed.
That 2013 Clemson.
Mike Williams.
They had 3 all-pro wide receivers on that team.
Listen to me. I thought Sammy Watkins was gonna be the next. I mean, it was gonna be the greatest receiver. I remember watching him on Clemson. I'm like, this dude is just going to eat the league alive. And I think Sammy Watkins is a good receiver, but I wouldn't consider him elite. And at no point in his career, I would consider Sammy Watkins elite in the league.
About a second-round pick here. I'm not expecting
No. I know. My point to you is all Clemson's wide receivers for me have Mike Williams, another guy. I'm like, this dude is going to eat the league alive. And I think he has been good. To Quincy's point, he's been injury-prone, but I feel like other than D-Hop, all the other receivers from Clemson.
Clemson is like an argument for wide receiver right now. I don't know how.
If it weren't for LSU's existence, we would be talking about
Clemson,
we would realize that 5 dudes being that good to be drafted in the first round is a ridiculous number of wide receivers for a program to produce that has not been prominent for that long, like Clemson has. Clemson's just now entered to that top tier college football.
And here's the thing about it, segueing into my comments on the pick.
Yeah.
T. Higgins has the record over all of those guys that we're talking about. So when we talk about T. Higgins, I know that a lot of people talk about his athleticism. I don't see that when I cut on the film. I see a guy that, yes, he makes contested catches, but he also has shown that he's faster on the field than his 40 time shows.
Mhm.
And I think a prime example of that is how we talked about Chase Claypool running the 4.4, but also look at a tight end, Albert O. Everyone was so hype about Albert O. He ran the 4.4. He was out of Missouri. He looks slow on film. Like when I watch T. Higgins, he does not look slow to me. And I think Quincy hit the nail on the head. Cincinnati, we're like the kings of that, right? Tyler Boyd was a guy that did not run a fast 40. And to me, I think that too many people get caught up in you running a 4.3 means that you're a good receiver. No, there's plenty of other ways that you can create separation in terms of route running and your ability. Like you could be John Ross, right? But John Ross is not a good receiver in the NFL at this point because, number one, he can't catch the ball. Number two, he can't run great routes. So you can have all of that speed. But if you do that, then essentially you're just an Al Davis-like reclamation project, and you're going to be out of the league in a few years. And I think Auden Tate is another guy who was really criticized because he's not really the fastest guy at all. No. But the way that he attacks the ball and the way that he's able to go up and get it, I think, puts him at a certain level. We'd all say that he's a pretty solid receiver. So I think when it comes to T. Higgins, when I looked at this pick, originally I wanted Josh Jones, just like everyone else. But apparently there is something with Josh Jones that not only the Bengals know because they did coach the Senior Bowl, Josh Jones was there, but 32 other teams that made them pass on him as well. Now, what that is, it seems that when I kind of listened to the third round pick, not trying to get too far ahead, but it seems as if that work ethic may have been an issue with Josh Jones. So that puts Ezra Cleveland there. To me, Ezra Cleveland was not a better prospect than T. Higgins. Like, I've never heard Ezra Cleveland be mentioned in the first round before. I've heard that with T. Higgins before. I'd never heard that with Ezra Cleveland. Like, for me, the Ezra Cleveland pick would have made sense if we moved down and we received some kind of pick to move down in a second. That makes sense. But for me, I think T. Higgins does make sense because he has been comped to AJ Green, although I do believe that he is similar to Mike Williams, as it was stated before. But this makes sense for not only now, but also the future, because the Bengals, when they started their prior generation or their prior era to this one, it started with a wide receiver and a quarterback, right? It started with AJ Green and it started with Andy Dalton. Well, they did the flip of it this time where they started with Joe Burrow and then they started with T. Higgins because although AJ Green is my guy, the reality is he was franchised for 1 year. So after this season, you're talking about likely declining John Ross's option. So John Ross isn't there. AJ Green isn't there. You're just literally looking at Tyler Boyd and Auden Tate next season. So this move did make sense for the future moving forward. If things fall down or don't work out with AJ Green, he gets injured again like he just did and misses a season, they have some kind of insurance there. And I think that it was the best player available. I think that it is definitely debatable that you could have looked at him or I think Michael Pittman, I think we talked about. I think that's a guy that you definitely would have considered. But I don't think that T. Higgins was going to go in the middle of the second round because you've seen as soon as he was picked, Michael Pittman was picked the next pick. So it seemed like they actually made the right move. So for me, I'd have to give that pick an A, honestly.
Okay. So next pick for the Bengals is Logan Wilson. Quincy, I'll let you start with this one.
To be honest, I don't know much about Logan Wilson. I know he plays linebacker, but he played in Wyoming. And since Josh Allen's not there, I really had no excuse to flip on a Wyoming game during college football season. Even though Craig Bowl, I think, is still there. Old North Dakota State coach. I hate North Dakota State. Shout out to him. They're just really good. They used to beat my school all the time. But, they got a linebacker there. They needed a linebacker. I would have to defer to everybody else to know if he's a good coverage guy because that's definitely what the Bengals have needed.
Yeah.
Every down kind of coverage guy. If they got that, then I'm going to give the pick a B. If, he just is another – what was the guy there you guys had there? He was awful.
Nick Vigil?
Nick Vigil, yeah. If he's Nick Vigil, then, somebody needs to be fired. But, it seems like a good enough pick there.
Tony?
I like this pick. I think the Logan. From what I've read, he's a 3-down linebacker, or at least he was at Wyoming. Now, can he be in the NFL? It's a little different when you make that transition, but I think by all indications he will be. And I think for that reason, look, this is a solid pick. And I'm going to bunch these two together, right? Because they took two linebackers together. I like the idea right there of just like bundling these two guys together because it was such a position of need for the Bengals. that you just increase your chances of filling that void by bringing in two guys back to back. The draft. I mean, the draft. We talk about this like, if he works out, right? I mean, this is all a numbers game at some point. I mean, it's just you're playing law of averages here. So if you have a dire need like this, and you're in these middle rounds, you got the extra picks. Take the same guy, take the same position twice. I like this just the strategy of it. So I'm going to give both these picks an A.
Yeah, I had a crush on Logan Wilson when I turned that tape. Dude, this is what he has. He's super smart, and in zone coverage scheme, dude is smart. He used to play corner safety. I think you can see it when you put in the tape. He's not super explosive. He's not a freakish athlete, but he's a thumper. Also, he can cover. He's smart. I think his game will translate to the NFL. He definitely translates to the NFL. I will give it an A. Again, I would say A minus because I think still no attempt to fix the line coming with Joe Burrow, and that's the main thing. What you want before anything is protect Joe Burrow. So that's that's the minus part, not because of Logan Wilson. Yeah, effing love Logan Wilson. When I saw him, I forgot there was somebody in my channel said like, "Oh, had you checked Logan Wilson?" I was like, "Oh, I used to do morning shows, so I put him there so I can scout him." And when I scout him, like, I'm sold. I even said like I don't even need a first round middle linebacker if I can get him in the third round. Yep. And I mean, obviously we didn't get him in the third round, so I was fine with our picks. But even after we picked Patrick Queens, I remember saying like, "Yo, if we can get Logan Wilson, put him with Patrick Queens." That's how big I was in Logan Wilson. Loved the pick. I hated that the Bengals took him.
Right. You know what's funny, Sonny, is when we did that mock draft, you picked a couple of the players that we actually picked. You picked T. Higgins and Logan Wilson. So for me, this is where I have no problem with Logan Wilson. I feel the exact same as Sonny. I watched him on film. He was extremely solid. I just felt like with Josh Jones on the board and some of the guys there on the board, like to pass on Josh Jones and him still be on the board after you've taken T. Higgins, that for me would have kind of been a home run pick. And I still felt like you could have possibly gambled and got Logan Wilson in the fourth round because we had the first pick of the fourth round. So he was scheduled to go between the third and fourth. Now, obviously, Willie Gay goes right before that pick. And Willie Gay was one of the guys that I wanted as well. But I'm not going to fault them for doing that because we did need linebackers. Obviously, we had, in my opinion, the worst linebacker core in the NFL last season. So taking him there, the only issue I had was that Josh Jones was still there. Now, like I said earlier, it seems to be that they kind of made some subtle comments about his possible work ethic. So if that's the case, I think it really came down to character and things of that nature because they both were actually at the Senior Bowl. So Logan Wilson, I have no qualms with this pick, but just like Sonny said, I have to be fair and I have to talk about protecting Joe Burrow. You know, this is a guy that we're bringing in, and I can't definitively say right now that with Bobby Hart starting at right tackle, I'm setting Joe Burrow up for success versus a guy like Josh Jones, who would have been a tremendous value in the third round, where I essentially have 4 first-round picks coming into camp, in the coming weeks if we actually do have a practice, which that's still tentative. But I would have Jonah Williams because I'm counting him as one of these draft picks since he never played. Mm-hmm. We'd have Joe Burrow, we'd have T. Higgins, and we would have Josh Jones. And, to me, it's just kind of hard to be like, man, hopefully we won't regret this. So for me, I'm going to have to give this pick a C+.
Oh, wow. Okay, so going for the next couple picks, you got Akeem Davis-Gaither, Elite Kareem. Let me say something real quick. I think Gaither is good. I just felt like he looked light for being a linebacker.
Yes, he is light.
He needs to put weight, not in the fourth round. Again, at this point, you are taking chances of people that you think they might start at some point. You don't think they're going to start right away. I think it is a potential good player, and he has some upside to him. And with same thing with Kareem. I think Kareem is just not as athletic. He is more of a guy hand in the dirt. The Bengals play 4-3, right?
We have a multiple look.
Okay.
The base is mostly 4-3, but we do have a 3-4 look. It's kind of like almost 5-2, and then we also have the nickel as well.
I feel like Kareem is more of a 4-3 the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's his position. I think they're solid picks. Quincy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Kareem's probably a one tech. But I don't hate the pick there. I like the Bengals strategy overall here. They just decided to it's kind of like linebackers, kind of like running back, where you just need to draft a bunch of dudes there and just see who develops. So they got 3 linebackers. They're going to sign a bunch. They probably signed a couple in undrafted free agency, and they'll have camp, see who looks good, and then cut some guys and pick some guys up and figure out that linebacker position. And that's very smart of them. I wish they had the same approach of offensive tackle, and they would have took Josh Jones there, because you could have seen what's shaking with this whole work ethic thing, because Josh Jones has good feet. He has good hands. I don't really like lazy offensive linemen don't normally have good fundamentals. So I would what that whole thing is, maybe that could have been somebody pushing it so they can get Josh Jones late. Try to sneak Ezra Cleveland onto somebody who I have heard nobody reputable say that man's going to be great. But, I would have took the flyer there with the 3rd round pick, and I wish they would have took more tackles. I wish they would have spent their 5th round pick probably on on the offensive lineman, just to see what shakes there, see if they can get somebody there. They had 2 glaring needs on this team outside of quarterback. And it was linebacker and offensive tackle. Ace, you've been talking about it for a while. I thought maybe they could have spent the rest of their picks taking flyers on guys, because they need another offensive lineman, because the thought of TJ Watt lining up against Bobby Hart is not a healthy thought for Joe Burrow. The thought of Myles Garrett sneaking over to the right side and lining up on Bobby Hart, that gives me a heart attack, and I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm just worried about the health and safety of Joe Burrow at that point, because ain't nothing that Bobby Hart gonna do to Myles Garrett. Okay, not a single damn thing he gonna do to that. So they needed to figure out to get something. Maybe you wanted to get just a straight up blocking tight end and just put him next to Bobby Hart and chip block, because he can't block. I just wish they would have addressed that. So that's why I'm not as high on this. I give these 2 picks C+.
So for me, after further review, I think for Akeem Davis-Gaither, I actually like that pick, because I didn't expect him to be there in the 4th round. I expected him to be gone in either the 2nd or 3rd round, and I think I found out why he kind of lasted that long. Apparently, he had an injury late in the season, so that could have been a reason that he kind of fell a little bit. But I actually like this guy, because he's actually, if you look at the Vegas odds for Defensive Rookie of the Year, he's 4th. Which kind of surprised me, because Logan Wilson's not there, but Akeem Davis-Gaither there. And I love the versatility, because he is somewhat small, but you can move him to safety. He can play corner if need be. He can play linebacker. So I love that. He also comes off of the edge as well. He's run off of the edge before in college. So loved the Akeem Davis-Gaither pick, especially with Josh Jones being off after Logan Wilson in the previous round. To me, there wasn't a guy there that we could technically take like Josh Jones. So for me, Akeem Davis-Gaither was a great pick. Since I'm doing an interview with Khalid Kareem, I'm almost kind of biased now, because I've went back and looked at some film, and I actually ran across a Ravens fan who was really high on this guy and gave a scouting report where he thought that he was going to go in the 2nd round. But going back and looking into this guy, apparently he played at Notre Dame, and he came up under a team that also had Quentin Nelson as well as Mike McGlinchey, right? So he was going against these guys day in, day out in practice. And I think that essentially made him a lot of a better player. And he was their Defensive Player of the Year last year, team captain. I really like this guy. I think that he really reminds me of Wallace Gilberry. And I think that he has a lot of versatility. And one under or overlooked need for the Bengals is edge rusher. Yes, we have Sam Hubbard. Yes, we have Carl Lawson. They play kind of on the same side. They kind of rotate with each other. Then we have Carlos Dunlap on the other side, but we don't really have a definitive person that backs Carlos Dunlap up, if you've noticed. Andrew Brown is not the answer. We don't have any kind of edge rusher to spell him, and I think Khalid Kareem could actually be that guy. So with that, and after looking at some of his games, seeing him make some really big plays and big moments and really flash. I have to give the Khalid Kareem pick, I think, a B+. I actually liked him after I did more research. Now, when the pick happened, I was like, who is this guy? But the more that I peeled back the layers on this guy, I actually really like Khalid Kareem.
Okay, so rounding out the Bengals draft, and I'll let Ace talk about his last two picks. We got Hakeem Adeniji. Hopefully, I didn't botch that.
Adeniji, I think it's Adeniji. Yep.
Tackle from Kansas, and then Marcus Bailey, linebacker from Purdue. What do you think, Joseph Burrow?
So for me, Adeniji, I've heard that he's a sleeper. I have a guy that I follow, Matt Minnick, Coach Minnick on Twitter. I really respect what he does from a film evaluation standpoint, and I've heard from some key members of the NFL community that this guy is a sleeper. However, to pick him over Moody, I think was a mistake. So for me, I didn't like that aspect of it. So I think for that grade for now, with this guy being a project guy and not a guy that's going to be able to come in immediately and help this line, which I think that's what we need. I think that I have to give this a C. And in terms of Marcus Bailey, that was a home run pick. I was a huge Marcus Bailey guy when this whole thing started. And when I started to go through the linebackers, he was the one that jumped out on film to me. This guy is like a pick machine. The only issue with that is he's kind of similar to Rodney Anderson, where he's had issues with major knee injuries. So with him sustaining 2 major knee injuries, that's obviously a minus. However, it seems as if after listening to his interview that he's actually going to be healthy and has been cleared now. So he actually will be playing this upcoming season. And he's actually my sleeper pick to be a starter out of these 3 linebackers. I wouldn't be surprised if he is able to stay healthy, that he is the best linebacker out of these 3 that we've drafted. And so for me, that was a home run pick.
Wow.
That was big praise over there. Okay, so let's talk about the clowns.
Can I just say one more thing on the Bengals draft? Because I don't mean to be defender of the Bengals over here, but I love their draft, and I know that they get criticized for the offensive line, but they have Jonah Williams coming back. I mean, but
they needed more than one tackle.
The only hope is that Fred Johnson. I think, and
love
that's
Fred Johnson. I love Fred Johnson,
and that's what I kind of talked about last night. I think the confidence in Fred Johnson and Michael Jordan caused them to pass on some of these guys. And I think that they're really big on Fred Johnson. They trusted him enough to actually even play left tackle over Cordy Glenn, who was healthy. And we all know Cordy Glenn is a decent NFL tackle, at least by NFL standards. And they decided to sit him down and start Fred Johnson at left tackle. So if he did okay at left tackle, he's definitely going to do all right at right tackle, which is an easier position to play.
Listen, I like The Last Dance a lot, but I'm not sure Michael Jordan can play tackle. I mean, he's
Michael Jordan.
I just wish they would have took the flyer at some point on either.
Yeah, I just wanted the flyer.
Or,
I mean,
with DJ Fluker when he became available.
Oh my God, man! I went back and forth with so many people over that on Twitter because they were like, "Oh well, his PFF grades say that he's not much better than." I'm like, stop it! I'm like, stop it! Alex Redmond is not starting for anyone's team. Michael Jordan would not start for anyone's team. Like DJ Fluker is a good guard. He's like a decent guard. At minimum, he's average. NFL average, I would take that all day. Our guards are below average.
I need to go off real quick.
Exactly.
The PFF grades for offensive linemen. Oh my freaking! I don't think I'm not one of these guys like PFF grades are always trash. No, sometimes they're all right. For certain positions, certain situations, they give you a good little it gives you some information, but you shouldn't base your whole opinion on.
Okay.
But people were calling DJ Fluker trash.
PFF grade is useless. It's garbage. Greg Robinson had an 88 PFF grade. He was one of the best tackles in football. And he got benched twice. He's not good. People were tweeting the whole season. Well, Greg Robinson PFF grade is. I'm watching him get beat every week.
Yeah.
Cam Irvin PFF grade. It's not that bad. It's then why Cameron Wake at 45 years old just dusting him, just one step, going like he's Myles Garrett. It's just. Stop with the. If anybody ever shows me a PFF grade for an offensive lineman and tells me, well, he's good, Look at his PFF grade. I'm blocking you because you don't know what you're talking about on Twitter. I'm blocking you. I'm just letting that be known. Don't ever bring up a PF even if everybody but Ace, because Ace has my actual phone number. But I'll block everybody. a PFF grade for offensive lineman, and then hit me with that. Well, the PFF said he's good. Shut up. Okay, this is where you need to rely on actual people breaking down tape for offensive linemen, because we have 3 stats for offensive linemen, and when you don't have stats for a position, the analytics are going to be trash, and even Andrew Berry knew that. I'm done. I'm done.
I would say for the DJ Fluker, and then let's move to the Browns. The DJ Fluker for us, it was a 1-year deal. I think it's non-guaranteed. So why not? I mean, what is the worst that can happen? He comes to camp, he doesn't look, and you just cut him and let him go.
Wait till some genius on Twitter tweets at you during training camp that Orlando Brown should be benched and DJ Fluker, because he had an 88 PFF score, buddy. He had a better PFF grade than Orlando Brown, who blocked for the MVP last. Oh, goodness.
The only justification I see for the Bengals not bringing in a veteran is if they really do like these young guys, right? You want to get them the reps, and so
the competition just pushes them. Nobody should feel safe.
No, it's going to steal reps. I mean, there's only so many reps to go around in training camp. Man. If you're not giving if you trust a young guy to develop, and you bring a veteran in to steal reps from them, you're not doing that.
You want your lineman to develop, or you want Burrow to be safe? I mean,
that exactly is the calculation that they're making. Yeah.
And then also you got to do the calculus on this. Even if DJ Fluker is not going to start for you, how versatile is DJ Fluker as a swing tackle?
Yeah, right. He can play tackle
inside. He's done it all in the NFL. So he's not an elite offensive lineman like we thought he was coming out of college, but
but he's still not bad. He's still a serviceable starter.
Versatility is a big piece of the offensive line. So
to get a versatile offensive lineman on a 1-year deal, that's a pretty good deal, because you don't want to blow a wheel at that position.
Okay, so going with the clowns here, Jedrick Wills, the first pick. I'm gonna let Tony talk about Jedrick Wills first.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think everyone else other than Quincy was hoping that the tackles would be off the board by the time the Browns picked at 10, and Isaiah Simmons was also off the board, right? That's what we were all hoping. That didn't happen. It was impossible with how many quarterbacks got taken early on. And so the Browns end up with what's going to be a very good tackle. I mean, Jedrick Wills for Alabama was a fantastic player. We heard Quincy. I'm sure Quincy's going to go nuts when he gets his chance to talk. We heard him yesterday on Joe's show. It's a good pick for the Browns. The one question mark, right? The one question mark, and I know it's going to make Quincy mad. The one question I have with him is making the transition from right tackle to left. It's obviously going to be one question of, is this guy going to make it in the pros? Although I think we know this guy's going to be at his floor is he's going to be an average tackle. His ceiling is this could be another all-time great left tackle in this league because he's got the tools. But adding the second question mark of, well, can he make the transition from right to left? It adds a little bit of a question, but this is an A+ pick for them. There's no doubt about it. I mean, this offensive line was the biggest need that they had. They addressed it, and they addressed it with one of the best tackles in the draft. The rest of us are just going to be hoping that he just can't make that. He just the right hand left hand thing, right? He just can't make that transition, because otherwise they got to steal.
Salute.
Ace.
I think for me, it's the same thing. It's a steal. This is a guy that was being talked about as possibly the first tackle taken in the draft, and you get him at number 10. I think it's a slam dunk pick for the Browns. I think it was perfect for them, and I think that he's going to fit in perfect with the AFC North. A+.
Yeah, so for me, I will say A as well. I think I like the pick a lot, and I will say, even though he was a right tackle, if you pick the other guys that play left tackle, they weren't as good as Wills. That's plain and simple. I don't understand what the Giants were doing, picking Andrew Thomas as 4th overall. That seemed like the Quentin Ferrell pick from the previous draft.
It's a high floor guy, I think is why.
I thought that was where he was supposed to go, though. I don't know, where did the whole thing of Andrew Thomas isn't the best tackle in this class? When did that start happening?
I like Wills better than Andrew Thomas, for sure.
Because like when I first started watching, I'm just wondering, like, did he have a horrible combine or something? Because when I first started looking at mock drafts, Andrew Thomas was like always a top 5 lock.
I think it's because he played at Georgia, and people are just like, "Well, offensive tackle Georgia, that makes sense." You know,
I like
Andrew Thomas is bad, but he wasn't. I don't think he was anywhere close to the top tackle in this draft. I was happy that the Giants did it, and honestly, I'm happy with what the Giants choose to do most of the time.
Especially
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones, Odell Beckham. We tend to benefit when the Giants do Giants things. So look, my thoughts on this are obvious. I love this pick. Joe Thomas, one of the best left tackles of all time, and certainly in this generation, absolutely loves this pick. Loves what he sees out of Jedrick Wills. And honestly, I can go on all day about why I love him, but if you want to know why I'm in love with the Jedrick Wills pick and why he's the absolute best offensive lineman in this draft, go and Google Jedrick Wills, Vach Lombardi. It's a 12-minute video where Vach, he's an offensive line coach, one of the best on YouTube in breaking down specifically offensive line film, tells you every reason why Jedrick Wills is fantastic. And you'll see some clips in there. You're like, oh my goodness. Like if this were like a regular draft and it wasn't like Joe Burrow, Chase Young, like those two freaks at the top of it, the hype would have been rolling up towards Jedrick Wills being like a number one. And if Jedrick played left tackle at Alabama his entire career instead of right tackle for Tua, we would be talking about this dude like he was like, oh, the next big thing coming out for the offensive lineman. It just didn't roll that way, which I'm happy for because we got an excellent player at 10. Obviously, I'm grading this A+.
Okay, so for me, second round, Grant Delpit. I think that was a steal. Delpit falling to them. I know people have problems with his tackling. I think the thing that people don't realize with Delpit is more of a free safety. He ain't gonna be a guy that you're gonna stick in the box and gonna be a molar in that box hitting people. He's not a downhill guy. He's a guy that is working the middle of the field, trying to bait the quarterback, make the pick. I like them a lot. Same thing with Fulton. Fulton was another guy that slipped a lot. Both of them I like coming from LSU. So I thought that pick for the Browns there, 44, they traded back and they still got Delpit. I thought it was a great pick. I will give him an 8 on that one. Tony?
It's an A+. I mean, if this is an insane value here. This is someone who I was hoping the Steelers would fall to the Steelers at 49 because I think, look, the Steelers – while, yes, wide receiver and running back were probably higher needs, right? The Steelers didn't really have, like, glaring needs anywhere on the roster. There's no one going to come in and start right away. But, boy, if you had Grant Delpit to a secondary that already had Terrell Edmonds and then Minka, I thought that could have been great. So this is a guy who would have been a top 10 pick, I think, in 2018, in the 2018 draft, 2019 draft, whatever, last year's draft. But his 2019 tape is full of missed tackles because of the ankle. Look, I attribute it a lot to the ankle injury. I don't think that a guy who went out there in 2018 and just lit it up, all of a sudden just forgot how to tackle, took all these bad angles for no reason, right? I mean, I think the ankle injury has so much to do with it. This is another playmaker on that defense. You added to Myles Garrett, you added to Ward at corner. I like Greedy Williams a lot. Greedy Williams is the guy I want the Steelers to take. Last year, the Browns just keep taking defenders that I like. I think this is another steal for them. And it's just, we're going to keep talking about at some point, we all know this Browns thing is going to work out. I mean, they can't just continue acquiring talent like this and then going 6-10. It just doesn't happen that way. So I love this pick for them.
Ace?
For me, I think it was a slam dunk, A+ for sure, because, I'm sitting back getting excited about the T. Higgins pick, and then I see Cleveland Browns select Grant Delpit, and I was like, oh, shit. That was my exact reaction. So for me, like, tremendous value, great guy. Definitely was in the mix of one of the players that I wanted at the top of the second round. So great get for the Browns, A+.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's the best possible spot for Grant Delpit to go. You talk about a situation where he's going to probably, this year, if he's ready to go right now, he could easily take that free safety spot, start there. If he's not, then, the Browns are going to trot him out there, maybe have him play a little slot corner while you have Sadeo, Andy Sadeo, the free agent pickup, play a little bit of free safety, hold it down there as the veteran. You have some options to make sure it can develop. If tackling really is an issue with him and it's not just the ankle and it's more of a technique thing, you got time to develop him. You got time to get get him perfectly right before he builds up some bad habits. Also, he's surrounded by dudes who can help him grow and mentor and all that. Like, I don't think that, I have a belief that, iron sharpens iron, and him having to defend OBJ and Jarvis Landry in practice every day, that's gonna be pretty good learning for him. So I think Grant Delpit went to a great spot. I think he is going to be a great player. I mean, if this guy works out, and he is what he projected to be in 2018, you're talking about a guy who can have, close to a Minka Fitzpatrick, Jamal Adams type impact on the defense. And this is a defense that's kind of thirsty for somebody because Myles Garrett's a lineman. Yeah, but they need somebody off the ball to be that kind of like the leader and the kind of director of chaos down there. So, I think this is an excellent pick. I mean, people are going to say Antoine Winfield was there, but Antoine Winfield, he's going to be a good safety. But you're going with Grant Delpit here because this is a guy who projected to be much more than a safety, and a guy who was compared to Jamal Adams, both as a player and as a leader at LSU, got to wear number 7 at LSU. They don't just give that number to any old jabroni over there. They give it to somebody who they believe is a great character person and a good leader, and just a flat baller on the field. And even with the hurt ankle that he played on, the guy played injured. That's good character right there. I mean, most guys would just call it a day and wrapped it up, if they knew they were going to be a first-round pick, not put bad tape out there. But he played injured, helped his team win a national championship, held down the number 7 jersey. And his tape really, for a guy with a hurt ankle, isn't terrible. So the upside's there. I think the floor isn't even that low. I mean, I think at bare minimum, you got a starting slot corner for you if it goes really bad with Delpit. So I like this pick a lot. This is another A+ for me.
So I give it an A. The other player in there that I would love maybe a little bit more was gonna be Marlon Davidson. I like Marlon Davidson a lot.
More than Grant Delpit?
For Cleveland specifically, to bolster that D-line a little bit more, I love Marlon Davidson. But this is not criticizing the Delpit pick because I do give it an A. Anyway,
I like Marlon Davidson a lot too because I do think the Browns needed a defensive tackle to kind of fill in and stop the run there. But like when Grant Delpit's on the board, Grant Delpit's on the board. Like,
I got you. Okay, so
he's also a need.
So third round, they went 2 guys here. They went Jordan Elliott, the tackle at Missouri, and Jacob Phillips, inside linebacker at LSU. Tony, I'll let you start.
Yeah, one question, Quincy, on Jacob Phillips. Is he going to play alongside Mac Wilson?
I think they're probably going to I don't know what they're going to do with linebacker right now. They got to figure some things out, and I think they still need to sign one more guy. Okay. But right now, it's looking like B.J. Goodson in the middle, Taki at will, and then maybe Mac Wilson out there. I don't think Jacob Phillips is going to. I think he's going to be like, first, second down when it's obvious rundown.
Yeah. You
need the extra linebacker. He'll come in there.
Okay. Yeah, so let's start with Jordan Phillips Jordan Elliott. Sorry, Jordan Elliott, the kid from Missouri, the interior defensive lineman. It's good. It's a good pick, man. This is a sleeper type pick because this is a guy who very good hands. Seems like he could be seems like he has the tools to be a very good interior pass rusher. But he didn't put it together at Missouri. I think he only had 6 sacks in his entire college career. But he seems like he has the skill set to do that. And on this defensive line, when the attention is going to be going elsewhere, he may be a sneaky player there. I don't know that he fills the kind of run stopper that they needed. But I think stopping the run is a bit overrated, right? You want to get to the quarterback, right? This is a passing league. You want to get to the quarterback. And in that way, I like this Browns pick again. And then with Jacob Phillips, the other guy, the linebacker. Look, this is Steeler fans. This is a Vince Williams type, right? What they got is a guy who's not going to be your playmaker at linebacker, but he's going to clean up the running plays. And so maybe he can help in those situations, like you talked about, Quincy, in those kind of run situations. I don't think he's not an every down linebacker. He's not going to be a playmaker in their defense by any stretch. But if he fills that void on first and second down, there's a spot for him on that defense. So I'm going to give the Elliott pick probably like a B+, and then the Phillips pick, like a B minus, just because the utility of that player in the modern game isn't there.
Ace?
For me, I think I give the Elliott pick an A, and it's simply because I've seen that he was compared to Kawan Short, and he was a guy that was expected to go between the second, and the third round. So I think for them to get him, that was tremendous value, and I love what the Browns are doing at the defensive tackle position. The only reason I know this is because I'm doing the updated Madden rosters to do some simulations, and I've noticed that they've thrown a lot of guys at the defensive tackle position, signing away Andrew Billings from us, also drafting Jordan Elliott. It seems that is going to be a key position for them to get tidied up at. Jacob Phillips, I wasn't huge on this pick. This was the first one where I was kind of like, I don't know if I would have went with him at that area, given where he was projected to go. But if he is a guy that can help on the rundowns, that's fine. I think for that pick, I have to give the Jacob Phillips one a C, just because I thought that they could have used someone slightly better there.
Yeah, I would say Jordan Elliott for me was a good pick there. They didn't go Marlon Davidson. Jordan Elliott, not as good as Marlon, but still feels the need, should come in, should be part of the rotation, should be able to contribute. Not a backup pick. Jacob Phillips is a guy that I think at the early of his career, he's going to be part of the special teams. He's a thumper. He can come in running situations. I think B and C is what I will give those two. Q?
Yeah, see, I get the Jordan Elliott pick a C+. I think he kind of fits into the mold of, I think this is a very much next year pick with him. I think this is a Sheldon Richardson might be too expensive next year and not as productive this year to justify it. So let's literally draft a guy who's very similar to him. I liked his first step, but he just didn't maintain his athleticism, if that makes sense. Like, that first step would imply that this dude's insanely athletic, but then you get him in certain situations and he just didn't handle it. I think he needs to probably add some weight too if he's going to be a one tech in an even front, because he does struggle in double team situations, and that's what a lot of teams figured out to kind of mess with the Browns on the interior, is that they kind of just double team the interior guys because they're small there with just having Sheldon Richardson and Larry Ogunjobi, so they kind of get dominated inside like that. And I don't think he's really going to change anything on that front. But I do like him. I just think he's probably a 2-3 year kind of projection pick there. Jacob Phillips, I actually like more than most people. I'm going to give him a B grade because I think he's kind of a dirty work guy. I don't know if I'm remembering the right linebacker out of Baltimore, but I think it was Donnell Ellerbe was really similar in a role that he played, where Donnell would just be the guy who runs in to the dude who's supposed to block Ray Lewis. So Ray Lewis at like 45 years old can run through the gap and still look decent. And I think that's what Jacob Phillips' role is going to be. He's going to clear some holes up for Mac Wilson. He's going to clear some things up for Taki, the guys who have a lot more athleticism that can handle these things. If you have them covering like Mark Andrews, yeah, you're in trouble. But, then you can – I think the Browns' solution for tight ends this year, I don't really like this. This is why I want him to sign a linebacker. But I'm scared to death they're just going to make Grant Delpit in his first year cover tight ends, and that's not what I want to see happen, because I don't think that'd be great for his development. But it's a solid enough pick. I think you need guys like this, but I don't think this is a guy who should start, because again, you don't want to start two guys who are second-year players and then a rookie. You're probably going to want to sign more veterans to put in the mix there, especially if you're going to be trying to contend, and especially if you're going to try to stop Baltimore. But I do think he's going to have his best games probably against Baltimore, because that's kind of what he's built for. But I like these two picks.
Okay, so rounding up the Clowns draft, we got Harrison Bryant, tight end, Florida Atlantic. We get Nick Harris, center from Washington, and DPJ, wide receiver out of Michigan. Ace, I'll start with you.
I mean, I think when you get to this point, you're kind of looking at guys that you're just trying to essentially get into camp, right? When you're talking about the 6th and 7th round. I did, however, like the Harrison Bryant pick, because this was, in my opinion, kind of tremendous value for this guy. It did make me look immediately at Njoku to see if they're, if he's in the plans going forward. I know that they did accept his option, but did they do that so that they can trade him, or what's going on there? That's the only thing that I kind of thought about it as. Yes, it does add depth. If you do choose to move on away from him, you have Harrison Bryant who can come in. Outside of the other two guys, the only thing that I can say is I did see a lot of Browns fans get upset that they didn't take KJ Hill over Donovan Peoples. So that's the only complaint there. I think, given what we have here, I think that you could probably give this about C+. Like if they picked KJ Hill here, I probably would say B easily. But I mean, not to say that I hate Donovan Peoples, but I just feel like KJ Hill, hometown Ohio guy, why not?
Okay, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I like this Browns draft so much. I hate it. Harrison Bryant is such a good pick for them because, well, first thing to let you know is like this is going to be a 2 tight end set offense, right? Because when you've already got Austin Hooper and you got Njoku, you just got him to his 5th-year option, and then you go in and you bring in Harrison Bryant. Like this team's going to run 2 tight ends. They're probably going to run Nick Chubb a lot and Kareem Hunt a lot. Harrison Bryant was a left tackle or was a tackle who got moved to tight end. He's a great blocker. Here's something that'll be upsetting for everyone except Quincy. You know what his comp is on NFL.com? You know who Greg Zuerlein? Not Greg Zuerlein. Is that his name? Greg Zuerlein?
Lance Zuerlein. Greg Zuerlein's the kicker. Lance Zuerlein comped Harrison Bryant to George Kittle. Okay, George friggin' Kittle. Yeah. No, thank you. No, thank you. It's a good pickup for them. And this wasn't a great tight end class, but they waited till the 4th round and got value there. I don't know anything about the center or the guard, whatever he's going to play, Nick Wright. So I'm not going to speak on him at all. But Donovan Peoples-Jones. Remember when I said I graded like 13 wide receivers and Claypool was one of the worst? Well, Peoples-Jones was way above Chase Claypool on my grade evaluation. Now, Peoples-Jones is an interesting prospect because he didn't do a whole lot at Michigan, right? But that was, he had Shea Patterson as his quarterback. So how much of that is Shea Patterson? There's a lot of question marks for his game for sure. Route running, right? Separation quickness. Look, he's got all the same question marks that we talk about these other receivers. But how much of that was Shea Patterson and how much of that is what he brings to the table? I think in the 6th round to get a guy like this is incredible value. I'm not going to say A because I can't keep giving every single Browns pick an A. So we'll give both these picks a B.
I will say for me,
but it's probably
I agree with Harrison. With Harris, I don't know much about Harris. I didn't scout him. Harrison Bryant is a solid pick. The only thing that surprised me about that pick is the fact that they went and after the draft they pick up the 5th-year option in Njoku. That was surprising. I would have thought, you know what,
offense.
Yeah, but Njoku's gonna be expensive next year, right? The 5th-year option is more expensive. You pay this kid this year he's gonna be tight end 3, right? You let him learn, and then Njoku moves on next year, and he's your tight end 2 because Hooper's your number 1.
Right, but I think you're missing the idea that like you can bring Harrison Bryant in on more run situations as a tight end.
I understand, and that's
right?
fine because this year all 3 will be there. I'm just saying for the next year and moving on, just picking that 5th-year option for me that it makes sense. But I'll give them the pass. I think that was a good solid pick. I'll say a B+ at least. Nick Harris, again, I didn't scout him, so I don't know. DPJ in the 6th round, I think it was awesome. I think DPJ should have been late 3rd, early 4th. I like him. I think I agree with Tony. I like him more than Claypool, or at least at worst the same as Claypool. Yeah. So yeah, so DPJ in the 6th round. I mean, in the Browns offense, there's no balls for him this year. But if he can contribute in special teams, and then next year, the Browns see growth, now they can say, okay, we can maybe move out of the expensive receivers of one of them. And then, not this year, but maybe in the near future if DPJ seems to be progressing, right? But for now, I think in the 6th round pick, as a flyer, I mean, in the 6th round, you're just getting guys that maybe has an upside. I thought it was great. I'd give it an A. Q.
Yeah, so we'll start with Harrison Bryant. The calculus on Harrison Bryant, because everybody, I had to think about why they would keep David Njoku, Harrison Bryant, and Austin Hooper. But the calculus is, one, David Njoku, probably not a great fit for tight end two in a two tight end offense. You generally want that guy to be a blocker and like a guy you could just send out on like a fullback route and catch the ball if Baker Mayfield's about to poop his pants. So like I don't think David Njoku's a fit there. Where you can make the case that keeping David Njoku on that 5th-year option is going to be valuable is in the red zone, right? Because I think the Browns are thinking along the lines of, hey, we stunk in the red zone last year. We couldn't run it in the red zone. We couldn't pass it in the red zone. We had no options. They'd let the Bills stop them like 7 times in a game on the 1 freaking yard line. These are bad things that happen on the red zone. They were terrible there. And I think David Njoku, big guy, can jump really high. You can probably make him like try to fit him there and then have Harrison Bryant there, like the 2 tight end set. So you can have Harrison Bryant, who's a better blocker if you're going to run, and David Njoku on the other side with OBJ and Jarvis, because Austin Hooper's value is going to be trying to get to the red zone because he's a seam guy and a decent enough blocker there. So I see them trying to mix and match, see what they can do, get creative. And if it doesn't work out, somebody's going to take a flyer on Njoku. You could probably trade him to the Steelers. Steelers like them a lot. So somebody's going to take him. I mean, the Steelers signed Eric Ebron for actual money.
2018 Eric Ebron. 2018 Eric Ebron.
So they'll sign younger Eric Ebron if they want. Like, you can probably call him off, because that's really what David Njoku has been so far. Very athletic guy who has focus drops and doesn't block very well. I mean, that pretty much fits the bill there. I mean, there's a lot of people who take it. So I actually like the Harrison Bryant pick. I think he's a better fit for tight end 2 than David Njoku was projected to be. I didn't think David Njoku was really going to be in competition for that spot. So, we'll see what happens with him. He's kind of the afterthought. He came back off injured reserve last year and he didn't play. So, there's a lot going on with that situation there. Nick Harris, heard good things about him. People like him. Plays center. He's kind of short, can't really play guard, so he doesn't help this year. He's going to see a lot of sweatpants in year 1 and 2. He's probably going to be like 52nd dude on the 44 active list, and he's going to be just hanging out. So, maybe if he plays 1 year center, you get your value for that pick, so I'm not really mad at it. Peoples-Jones is interesting because I think we mentioned Shea Patterson was his limiting thing. I think the bigger limit that he had was his coach was John Harbaugh.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay. You got to mention that too. Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh, not John. Jim.
Oh, Jim Harbaugh.
He was in the Harbaugh family. Bad enough.
Unlike John Harbaugh, when Jim Harbaugh has athleticism and not the right people around him and just a bunch of yes men who worked at Michigan with him, like, oh yeah, Jim, we'll do whatever you do. He does terrible things. This is a dude who turned like 15 5-star recruits to like nothing. Just Duke doo-doo. No wins over Ohio State. He's one of the worst coaches in the Big Ten. Overrated, overhyped, just he's robbing folks out there in Ann Arbor. So I think Donovan Peoples-Jones, with his athletic profile, probably was a better fit for an NFL team coming out of high school than he was after wasting 4 years at Michigan. So the real question is, can he unlearn what Jim Harbaugh taught him? If he can unlearn what Jim Harbaugh taught him, you're talking about a guy who's going to be a reliable kind of piece here. You can put him at slot. You can put him at the X. What I see him as being is like, hey, if he can work out and be what we think he could be and what he was before Jim Harbaugh got his hands on him, he's a guy who's versatile, right? So if you want to make Jarvis play the slot for a certain set or a certain series, you can put him at the X, have Odell, him, or the XY, whatever, and then Jarvis in there. But if you want to put Peoples-Jones in the slot so you can have Jarvis outside so you can get them yak yards, because Jarvis get them yak yards, you can do that. So if this works out, he's like a switch to get the most out of Jarvis Landry, honestly, or even Odell, because then you can have an excuse to put Odell in the slot. Oh my God, put Odell in the slot against the Steelers. It's going to be silly.
Mike Hilton, Cam Sutton, come on.
Oh yeah, Cam Sutton on Odell Beckham. But honestly, you kind of want to keep Odell in front of Joe Hayden when you play the Steelers, because Joe Hayden still can't stop a double move to save his life.
Keep going. I'm not going to interrupt. Keep going.
I got all the love in the world for Joe Hayden, but I ain't never seen that man stop a double move in his life. Even in his prime, where he was holding like AJ Green and and Julio Jones to like 0 stats, he wasn't doing that. I saw him got beat on a double move by a dude in Jacksonville who got cut from an AAF team 2 years ago. Like, that just is what it is with Joe. So anyways, I devolved into talking about Joe. But yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones, if he can unlearn every single bad thing that he learned at Michigan, because they have done nothing but devolve this guy who was the number 3 recruit at wide receiver when he entered college and somehow ended up in the 6th round despite being 6'2" and running a 4.4 40. It just shows you Michigan's not a good place to go and send your kids. So if you're an adult, don't send your kid to Michigan. If you're a father of an athlete, don't send your kid to Michigan, because Michigan does nothing but lower your value. So Michigan sucks all the time, and it's never good. And John Harbaugh is one of the worst things that ever happened. So yeah, Peoples-Jones can unlearn what Jim Harbaugh taught him. He's going to be great. But if one thing Jim Harbaugh taught him sticks forever, maybe he'll be great in the CFL. It's really Jim Harbaugh's fault if he doesn't pan out. It has nothing to do with the Browns.
Okay. Now we go.
Well, you know what? We're already at an hour and a half. We should probably just call it, right? I think we're out of here.
We gotta go to the elite draft.
I don't know if we have time, Sonny. I mean, it's already an hour and a half.
I gotta go get dumped.
So let's talk about the Ravens pick, Patrick Queen. So I'll let Joseph Burrow start.
For me, Patrick Queen, I think that it was a great pick for you guys. I couldn't believe that the Seahawks really reached and grabbed Jordan Brooks there. I think that this was the best case scenario for the Ravens. They needed a linebacker. They were looking to add some value there. When you saw the run on the linebackers start, you kind of, from my perspective, kind of started to worry. We were essentially hoping that Patrick Queen would fall to us in the 2nd round, and the Ravens got him. So I think it's tremendous value for the Ravens. So for that, I have to give that pick A.
Tony?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know everyone's talking about this guy's going to be the sideline guy, Devin Bush Jr., that kind of thing. It's what they needed, right? It's certainly what they needed. Now, is he going to come in and be this kind of elite playmaker? It's a one-year wonder. This is a guy, we talked about this yesterday, right? The fact that, this guy just came on in his junior year, right? He's what they needed. I'm not sure that he's going to come in, with the Ray Lewis comparisons and all that crap. Look, he's a fine pick for them. It's an A- pick because it fills a need right away. But going into the draft and having a need like this is dangerous. And you're hoping that a rookie's going to come in and change your defense right away. It works out. It worked out for the Steelers last year. But remember, the Steelers traded up to 10 to get an elite playmaker, a guy who ran 4.4 and was sideline to sideline. I'm not sure Patrick Queen is that guy right away, but it's still a good pick for them because it fills that need.
Cute.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a C+, and here's why. Fills a need, right? But I think we've overrated Patrick Queen just a little bit, man. I think a lot of people are projecting things onto Patrick Queen that I don't think necessarily are there. If you look at the defense that he was in at LSU, he was supported by so much around him. I mean, he had a 3rd-round pick next to him, opening up holes for him. He had Grant Delpit back there watching the secondary. He had 2 great corners on the side of him. Like, things weren't really difficult for Patrick Queen out there at LSU. And I'm not trying to say that like he didn't work hard or anything. I'm just saying, I just don't know how – well, A's really don't like this take. But I give Queen a C and Delpit an A because Delpit wore number 7 and Queen wore 8. No bias there, right? Yeah, well, LSU clearly thought Delpit was a better defensive player than Queen because Queen would have been wearing the 7. But anyways, you look at Queen's tape, it's not bad. It's not going to be a bad linebacker. I just question if he's going to be the difference maker that you needed there. At linebacker that you're hoping for. Everybody, he went later than he was supposed to, and, people were excited about that. But, I thought there were better fits out there. I thought there were better players they could have got. But, it's a good pick. It's a good pick. It's not a great pick. I don't think Patrick Queen's going to be the long-term solution at linebacker. It's pretty much what I'm saying.
Okay, so this is why we only have 29 likes, because Quincy's spilling this nonsense here. Okay, let me say this.
We're talking about Patrick Queen during college football. Now we're acting like he was like he's Tyrann Mathieu. Oh my God, he fell to 28.
Dude, I haven't mentioned anything yet. I haven't.
Was there a reason Jordan Brooks got picked over him? Because I thought Jordan Brooks was
because
a
Seattle because it was Seattle. Look, Seattle traded a second and
it must be legal out there or something. Maybe their GM's partaking in some of that legalization.
They traded a second and a third for Darrell Taylor. The Seattle Seahawks did. Anyway, look, what you said about Queens is fair. He had a lot of talent around him. You know what he's gonna have in Baltimore in that defense? A lot of talent around him. Corners we are stacked at corners. We have really good safety. We built the D line, which is the bigger factor than the corners and the safeties, right? We put big, good bodies in that D line. We're talking about Brandon Williams, Wolf, Calais Campbell. We still have Jude on there. We have Ferguson. We have really good D line, and we added depth to that D line, and that's what usually helped that middle linebacker. Plus, our secondary is really, really good. I think if we didn't have the D line we had, I think a lot of your points, Quincy, are fair. But because of the D line, that will help Queens to play more free, to be more the sideline to sideline linebacker, to be the dynamic player that he can be. So I think it was a great pick. I liked it.
Just because he can exist out there, though.
He's
making a case like he's going to exist out there.
No.
That he's going to be able to exist out there. There's enough talent around.
I think he's going to be good in this offense.
I didn't see a dude at LSU that, like, if I was Clemson, I'm like, yo, we got to figure out a plan for Patrick Queen. You know, I don't feel like that conversation ever happened.
But
we're talking about a guy getting drafted in the first round, like. This is somebody who's supposed to be, like 5 years at least? You know, you're talking about signing somebody in the second year, solution there. I see a lot of, like, you like it a lot. I got some questions on him. I just think there's a lot more questions that need to be asked of him. I think we just kind of, I don't get why Patrick Queen. How did Patrick Queen go before Grant Delpit too? That's another question for another.
That's a great question. Well, the injury concerns with Delpit, right? It has to be
ankle injury. Like
I know,
it's like
I'm with you,
but it's just like I just don't know how how Patrick Queen made this jump from like. Dude, that like I doubt a lot of people in the chat that are excited about him right now that are Baltimore Ravens fans watching the national championship game and we're like, oh, this Patrick Queen. Like, no, we got knowing about Patrick Queen after the season. It's just like, how did he make this jump to the best linebacker in the entire draft class?
Well, Isaiah Simmons was the best. Yeah, I was gonna say Isaiah Simmons was the clear best linebacker, and a guy that I like a little bit better than Patrick Queen was Kenneth Murray. But I think at 28, Patrick Queen made a lot of sense. I think if fill a need. I think again, he can be dynamic in this defense because the D line is in place. Now, if he didn't have the D line, that's when Patrick Queen will get hurt. But I think in this defense, he's a good fit. I think he will be great.
Sonny, who's better, Patrick Queen or Logan Wilson?
I think Patrick Queen is better than Logan Wilson. But they're different linebackers. They're very different type of linebackers. I think actually both of them together will be very dynamic, right? Logan Wilson, in my opinion, is better than Malik Harrison, if you ask me. But that's where Logan Wilson is a type of linebacker like Malik Harrison versus Patrick Queen is more athletic. So Patrick Queen is your athletic linebacker, which is what the league is moving to, having at least one athletic linebacker. And Logan Wilson, Malik Harrison are not your linebackers. They're athletic. Logan Wilson is just uber smart and great on the zone coverage scheme. Now, if you ask him to cover running back out of the backfield man-to-man, he might get torched. But super smart. Anyway, let's move to the second round pick for the Ravens, J.K. Dobbins. Ace, what do you take this one?
Home run pick. A+ for me. J.K. Dobbins for me is going to fill that void that you guys haven't had since you had Ray Rice. And at first I was kind of taken back and I was like, I'm not sure if running back is where the Ravens had a weakness at, but I'm not mad at this pick, right? The more it kind of marinated and I kind of thought about it, I was like, this is a great pick for them. I mean, taking J.K. Dobbins there was just it's almost unfair.
Okay, Tony.
I hate this pick. I hate this pick for the Ravens. I didn't want the Steelers to take a running back going into the draft. I thought they would. I predicted that they would because of everything they said. But running back in the second round doesn't make any sense. And look, I know J.K. Dobbins is probably going to be a good pro, but for how long? I mean, he's going to be there for 4 years, and then he's going to say, hey, I want 12, 13 million. This is if he's good, right? This is if the pick works out. He's going to say, hey, I want 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 million, whatever 4 years from now running backs are making at the top, right? I mean, probably more than that, maybe 20, whatever it's going to be. And if you pay that, you're insane, right? So you're going to let this, and what you should do is let him go, right? It's a churn and burn position right now in the NFL. So taking J.K. Dobbins, you're taking a guy who's got a shelf life of 4 years. And you've got a shelf life of 4 years, and you're going to sit him behind Mark Ingram in all likelihood year one. So you really got 3 years of max productivity out of this guy. And what are you putting, like, why do you need J.K. Dobbins in this offense rather than, Justice Hill, who they already have? I know we talked a lot on Joe's podcast yesterday about the Week 17 game, right? But the Week 17 game between the Steelers and Ravens. But that game is very instructive for this pick, okay? Because the Steelers have one of the best defenses in the NFL. We can all agree on that. The Ravens torched them running the football. With who? Gus Edwards. Running back is a dime a dozen position. If you can run for 200 yards with Gus Edwards, it's not because Gus Edwards all of a sudden had a great game. The scheme is right in Baltimore. You can put really a lot of running backs in that scheme and make it work. And so for me, I'm not going to give this an F because I think J.K. Dobbins is a good player and he's going to have a good career. This is going to be a D pick for me, but I don't like running back in the second round. The value just is not there.
Q.
That was a hot take by
Yeah, I know.
Very hot.
All right.
Very hot.
Yeah, I like the J.K. Dobbins pick. I was scared that this was going to happen. J.K. Dobbins is a very different type of running back than just like a dude who's going to take carries like Gus Johnson. Now, Gus Johnson has his value. He's a short yardage guy. I like Gus Johnson a lot. I actually had him on my fantasy team. He kind of let me down, but, Mark Ingram happened. All right. But Mark Ingram's going to be in the last year of his deal. Well, he's going to have, one last year of guaranteed money left on his deal. So he's going to have to go somewhere after this year. Then J.K. Dobbins is going to be able to take over. And then right now you can figure in J.K. Dobbins into the mix and get creative with it. This is probably a move to get some overkill on running back so you don't have to run Lamar Jackson so much in those triple option looks that they have. So you can save him some hits, so you don't have to completely bench him in order to go ahead. So I like the J.K. Dobbins pick. People are saying maybe, it didn't fit a need there for Baltimore, but they drafted Queen in the first round. That was really their only need at linebacker. And whether you like Queen or not, that's a linebacker. They picked their guy there. So there was no way they were going to just fill needs this entire draft because they don't really have needs. They went 14-2 last year. So, any pick is a luxury pick. And J.K. Dobbins is the luxury pick of all luxury picks. I mean, now you have a running back who is really good out the backfield catching the ball. And what are you going to be able to do with that? I think that's going to be right up Lamar's alley. Lamar likes to hit passes in between the scenes. You can see J.K. Dobbins on an angle route already just doing damage on defenses. I think this is going to be a good pick. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to be one of these guys we're going to talk about all year long. J.K. Dobbins, how he's unlocked another gear, and it's going to be Sunday's excuse to say the Ravens are going to go 15-1, which they're not. But, J.K. Dobbins, good pick here. Think he's going to be effective. I think Tony, Tony doesn't like running backs early on. I get it. He's had success with late round running backs, even though the best running back you've had in a while was a second round pick.
Le'Veon Bell has scarred that man.
No, but he was 5 years and gone, right? I mean, you're not going to get a 10, 12-year career out of these guys.
Yeah, so how good were those 5 years, though? You should have won a Super Bowl in those 5 years. The Ravens are trying to win a Super Bowl.
I get it. We could have
years. If you win a Super Bowl and J.K. Dobbins gets you 70 yards in that game.
Didn't the Steelers try to bring Bell back? They tried to bring Bell back, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
They tried to.
You talking about in the contract or over the trade?
Trade.
The trade.
The rumor with the trade comes from Le'Veon himself.
Okay.
But all he said was that the Steelers made the call. Now, I imagine, at the trade deadline, every team's making every call, right? Hey, who you got available? So, look, the Steelers last year, they didn't have the money to bring him back. PTSD from Le'Veon. we should do a thing on running back at some point. I don't want to derail this podcast with like an hour-long running back thing, but
I would say for me, Jacob Dobbins was a B plus. I was shocked on the pick. I married like Ace said, after a while, I'm going to liking the pick. The only reason I didn't want a running back because I thought it wasn't a position you need. It was definitely luxury. There's guys there that I wanted with there. Denzel Mims, a guy that I would prefer there. With Willie Gay, even though we took a linebacker, it would have been a luxury pick. I would have taken Willie Gay.
It was in the third round too. That was scary.
I thought the Ravens were going Mims.
Oh yeah, it was like one pick right before.
Josh Uche, another guy that I would like. So there's a couple of guys there. Logan Wilson, I would have taken Logan Wilson there. I would have been happy. Julian Okwara. There were some guys that I would have taken there over a running back. Now, we took a dynamic running back, Quincy's Point, a guy that Mark Ingram only has one more year in this team. But even this year, I think he will be carrying probably at least 35 to 40% of the time on the field, not carrying, on the field. And then probably you're going to see Ingram in the field, the other 40%, and Gus Edwards being the 20% guy. I think those are the three running backs that you have.
Don't sleep. J.K. Dobbins can block out the backfield.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
He's really solid there. So he's kind of day one ready, third down back.
I agree. No, that's what my point is. He's going to be splitting time with Mark Ingram and probably 50-50 with him and sprinkle some Gus Edwards. I think it was a good pick. I understand the pick. It makes us more dynamic on offense. So I like the pick. Okay, so in the third round for the Ravens, we had a bunch of picks. We started with Quincy's boy, Justin Matabuki. We had Devin Duvernay, another Quincy's boy, another OSU guy, Malik Harrison, and Tyree Phillips is a tackle / guard from Mississippi State, so I'm not sure how much you guys know about him. But Tony, I'll let the floor to you. Third round for the Ravens.
Yeah, the only player out of these that I really watched any of was Devin Duvernay, who's he's a solid pickup for them, right? I mean, this is right in the Ravens' wheelhouse. They have a type at wide receiver because Prochet, I believe, ran in the 4.4s as well. So they have a type. They want that speedy receiver. But the thing you like about Duvernay is that he can be a combat catch guy. So I like that pickup for them. And then Malik Harrison, another guy who, I didn't watch a lot of Malik Harrison tape. Tyree Phillips, you talked about him a lot yesterday as far as, bringing in guys on that offensive line and just kind of the numbers game there. As I talked about with the Bengals, I think that is, again, when you're talking about the crapshoot that is the NFL draft, and then, it is a numbers game at some point. Bodies on the, bodies at the position, bodies in the room is what you need because, you play out the law of averages there.
Ace.
Oh yeah, for me, I think going off of what Tony said, I didn't watch film on some of these guys, but I was familiar with them because I did have to do a lot of analytics on them. I think that you guys got some great value here. Devin Duvernay, especially that late, especially after passing on guys like Denzel Mims, T. Higgins, and those guys, to still be able to pull off a Devin Duvernay was very impressive. I really liked what the Ravens did. I think the Ravens and the Browns, not to leave the Steelers out or anything, I really liked what they did as a whole in this draft when you look at rounds 1 through 7. So I think in these middle rounds, they still cleaned up, especially getting the linebacker out of Ohio State as well. So I think for those rounds, or I guess that's the third round, and then you got Prochet as well, I have to give that a B.
Okay. Cute.
Yeah. So Matabuke, if he didn't go to the Ravens, I would have been skeptical of, but he went to the Ravens. I have faith in their ability to develop him, and because he has some things he needs to learn. He needs to learn how to win more of his battles at the line of scrimmage. He doesn't win a lot at Texas A&M. Big old dude, impressive looking guy, honestly. If you ever seen a picture of him. But impressive looking guy, has a lot of tools to be built up, just doesn't have the technique, but he went to the right place there. Devin Duvernay, Texas. This is along the lines of what you need with Lamar Jackson. Like, I think Lamar is going to do better with guys like Devin Duvernay than he is going to do with guys like a Denzel Mims or even Hollywood Brown, just because I think these guys fit where his hot spot is on the field a lot better. So I like that pick a lot there. Malik Harrison, it's a good pick here. He is somebody I think can help in a few years. I don't think he's going to be super ready on day one. It's going to be interesting how they line up at linebacker 2 here, because you got Patrick Queen here. You also still have LJ Fort on the roster. I don't know if you guys are planning on keeping him, but it would make sense to. He played well last year, and then you have Malik Harrison. I honestly think Malik Harrison's a better fit alongside LJ Fort than Patrick Queen is, because you're just be really short there at linebacker with Patrick Queen and LJ Fort both being 6 foot, but they'll figure something out there. They're better football brains than I am. So, and then are we talking about the guard?
I mean, if you watch anything from him,
he sucks. F. Yeah, give him an F.
Okay, so for me, the third round was for me a great. Matabuki is coming to be part of a rotational guy. It's not gonna. We have the starters in place. We have Williams. We have Wolf. We have Campbell. This dude is gonna be learning from Campbell, from Wolf, how to be D tackle, D in a 3-4 scheme. I think it was a good pick. To Quincy's point, he needs to learn how to do more technician stuff. I think he has all the traits, but he needs some technical abilities, and I think. I'm confident that he can translate. I like the pick a lot. Devin Duvernay, I love that pick. I think when we were in pick 78, I was calling that pick for the Ravens. I was surprised when the Raiders, for some reason, when Bowden and Brian Edwards after getting Ruggs. So who knows what the Raiders are doing over there. But Duvernay was a guy that I love for us. Malik Harrison, Quincy's point, I think you will see him in the field rotating with LJ Ford. I think LJ Ford is going to be the starter there, linebacker with Patrick Queens. I think that is the plan. I think Malik Harrison will play some special teams and sprinkle in some action on the field. And Tyree Phillips is going to just battle for the right guard position. And just segueing from that, our 4th round pick was Ben Bredesen from Michigan, guard, also battling with Tyree Phillips. And then a pick that I questioned, the D tackle, Broderick Washington. That was my more questionable pick. But do you guys have any thoughts for the round 4, Ben Bredesen? I don't know if you guys watching.
Yeah, Roderick Washington's a bad pick there. You mean
Roderick Washington's a bad pick, yes.
Yeah, that's not a good pick.
That's not a good pick.
Which one? Oh, Washington.
Broderick Washington. Yeah, you talked about it.
Yeah, I didn't like it because
it's 2 rounds too early, just like the J.K. Dobbins pick.
I wanted Anai at there. I wanted the guy Brandley Anai in that position.
But they didn't take a pass rusher at all, really, in this draft.
We didn't take any outside backers. No, we didn't.
So that probably means oh God, what's the guy you guys just tagged? I'm blanking on his name. Judon. You're keeping Judon now. You know, there's no trade happening now.
Nope.
Yeah. Here's the thing with Broderick Washington, right? I mean, he's probably going to be a nose. He doesn't really have a lot he's going to add as a pass rusher. That position is dead in the NFL, and it's even look. You know, the Steelers taking him in the 7th round, fine, right? Because they need to add a body in the room. The Ravens adding a nose tackle is hilarious because the one team in the NFL who you go into the game and you go, well, we probably do need to stop the run is when you're playing the Ravens. You know who doesn't have that problem? The Ravens, right? Like you can't play yourself. So the Broderick.
Yeah, but to be fair, our worst trade last year was against the run.
Yeah, I was about to say, is this like is this like a fear of repeat of what happened last year with when Brandon Williams sat out the one game and then Nick Chubb ran for like 200 on him?
Then Derrick Henry. Do we want to? Am I allowed to talk about Derrick Henry?
Our weakest position is against the run. The reason why statistically,
but you're not a Broderick Washington away from stopping Derrick Henry, right? You're Patrick Queen, someone like that.
Broderick Washington has to make the team.
Yeah. He might not. We drafted another guy that potentially could be a nose tackle, Mac, last year, right? So I think it's another body. But one of those two is not going to make the team. The other dude is going to take a phantom injury. He's going to get an IR for the rest of the year. That's usually what happens with these dudes. So yeah, I mean, Bredesen is a guy that could compete for that right guard position. We'll see. We have a bunch of guys they're gonna try to compete. We talked about DJ Fluker earlier in the stream. So last two pick for us, James Prochet and Geno Stones. Any thoughts on those two?
I have never in my life, I've been watching the draft for a very long time, right? Since I was a kid. I love the NFL draft. I have never seen a 7th round pick hyped up by the draft, by the announced team, right? By the analysts, as much as Geno Stone was during that broadcast. I mean, you would have thought this guy slipped from the 1st round to the 7th round with what these guys were talking about. This guy, he's got everything. He's got all the tools you want, just not the athleticism. I mean, can we calm down? Okay. Here's the thing: 32 teams passed on this guy at 6 or more times for him to get to the 7th round. Okay, so I don't want to hear about how this guy's like this, this unbelievable talent that they drafted in the 7th round. He's like every other 7th round pick. He's a camp body who you hope makes the roster and makes an impact on special teams.
Did they really say he's got everything but the athleticism?
Yes. You go back and watch, man. It was insane how much they talked this kid up.
It sounds like the first overall pick of the XFL draft. He was just slow. He plays safety, right?
Yeah, he's safety. Yeah, you don't need to run as a safety. It's not a big deal.
You can't be slow. What are people thinking? I mean, he might have a good story and might be a really good guy. I don't know. I just know since it's been a while since I've been worried about Iowa's secondary, watching Big Ten football. But
the old lineman from Iowa. That's what they're the old lineman factory.
You want worse as a guard, you know what I mean? But I don't know who. Maybe the tight end. Drew Sample, was he out of Iowa?
No, Noah Fant was good last year.
No offense to reason Drew Sample.
And Hawkinson was also out of Iowa.
I hate
Hawkinson, yeah.
Shout out to Drew Sample. He's fumbled in a Madden sim.
Send us. He's fumbled in life. He is complete garbage.
That one might be the hottest take of the show.
I literally have a Drew Sample reaction video on my page when we made that pick. It is hilarious.
Yeah, Drew Sample, lovely guy. He's going to be the next Tyler Eifert.
Oh God.
So, what do you guys think about James Prochet?
I mean, he's a speedy receiver that, again, the level of competition is a problem for him. He played for SMU. But a speedy receiver, right? I mean, he's got that upside. This is a league, that everybody wants those speedy guys. So you get one of those guys in the 6th round, you take a flyer on it. I don't hate it.
Yeah, see what happens there. Probably not going to make the team. Let's be realistic.
Well, they're not. They're not the deepest at wide receiver right now.
He making the team. They traded up to get him. They traded a 5th round from next year to get him.
Yeah, I've seen the Browns draft dudes in the 4th round that they traded up 3rd round picks for that they cut. So I don't think he's probably gonna make the team. A bunch of dudes ain't gonna make the team. Let's be real. The Ravens don't have room. There's not a lot of room on this roster. We can get excited about the 5th or 6th round picks for the Ravens, but these dudes don't got room. So yeah, good guys are gonna get cut. You might have a good camp. You might have some nice preseason highlights. Maybe you might be able to sneak them on to the practice squad. But yeah, he probably gonna get cut and get signed somewhere else. Let's be real.
So for me,
actually, Troy brings up a good point. I think Dante Moncrief might be available for the Ravens. Yeah, it might be a sneaky signing.
Dante Moncrief would be a perfect fit for the Ravens because it won't matter how much he drops the ball because Lamar is never going to throw the ball to him.
He doesn't trust Moncrief. He won't throw it. Okay, so I would say day 3 for us was solid. I would say a solid. I would call it a B. I like the Bredesen pick. I didn't like the Washington Jr. pick, but Prochet and Geno Stone for me are solid. Geno Stone is the guy that you're gonna say, okay, you're gonna be special teams, and similar to Chuck Clark, right? Chuck Clark was a special team for the first early part of his career, and then he was able to contribute as a player to us, right? He was a 6th round or 7th round pick. He wasn't overly athletic, Chuck Clark either. So I think Geno Stone, and in the 7th round, who knows? If it doesn't pay out, it was a 7th round. Yeah. And Prochet, similar. Prochet is a guy that they're hoping he can translate what he did in SMU to the league. But if not, again, a 6th-round pick. He looks good on tape, but the competition, to Tony's point, it was lower. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Anyway,
actually, chat is correcting me here. He is not a burner. I have him. That is my fault. He's not a burner on tape, or he didn't even run in the combine. So
Take Moncrief.
But if somebody was it camouflage? You just said
Camouflage.
I'm talking bull. The Ravens have the most roster room in the league.
well, he's talking about
a mass exodus of free agents.
no. He's talking about the 90-man roster. We still can fill. I don't know. At this point, I don't think anybody has the 90.
Though. I mean,
Now the Steelers have their full 90 filled. I mean, they had to cut 3 players to fit their undrafted.
Yeah.
Like you got room, but like when you talk about the 53 guys that are actually going to make
it's what matters.
Yeah, there's probably like a few slots on offense that are available, and you're probably going to find better wide receivers there. You know what I mean? So I'm talking down. I'm saying the Ravens with 14-2, they don't have space on their roster. What are you even talking about?
You can't reason, Quincy. If there's anything we've learned from all these, you can't reason with a Ravens fan. You just can't.
Come on.
You just can't do it.
I think Lamar Jackson is the greatest player in the AFC North. He's going to win the MVP again, but he might be like 60% at throwing outside, post routes. Oh my God!
Hate mail. You're going to get hate mail for days. Yeah.
How dare you say something critical of Lamar Jackson? Oh my goodness.
Okay, my guys, we have been going for almost 2 hours. Please make sure if you haven't subscribe, like this video, check everybody's page, Quincy Carter, check Ace page, and check SZG Sport as well. It was fun. You guys are gonna see more videos of this. At this point, it's probably gonna taper down for a little bit because with no OTAs, it's all virtual.
We're gonna get into that dead period real quick here.
I think that dead period is upon us.
Yeah.
So
what we should do for the next show, if we're gonna have a dead period, we should just live watch the Titans versus the Ravens.
The Ravens, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Ravens was a good one too. I mean, we want to go all AFC
live on the chat here. Derek Henry's tape. How well did he play? Let's really watch what the Titans did, so we can get a good look at Matt Conklin.
Hold on. Game Pass is free. Game Pass is free for everyone right now, so we actually could do this a watch party. Titans Ravens. I'm in. I'm actually in for this for real.
We'll watch the 45 minutes.
Are they gonna?
Watch the shortcuts.
We'll watch the Week 17 tape on the second 45 minutes too. All
right, let's maybe we'll chill on that one. But I'm in for the Titans.
Hey, look, here's the beauty about being the Browns and the Bengals. You ain't got one game you could just put up there and make us upset. We stuck the whole season. You can't make us mad. We already mad. What you gonna do? Oh, we're gonna put up the Arizona game? I don't care. Put up the Arizona game.
The San Fran game was my favorite of the year. If I had to pick one,
Hey, you ever watch like the NFL official camp, like the highlight versions they put on YouTube?
Yeah,
there's like one highlight of the Browns, and like I think Nick Chubb fumbled.
Brown Steelers, which one? Which Brown Steelers? That first one was a crap game. I mean, it was just a crap game overall.
The first one was pretty good, and it was pretty.
Well, you guys won, but it was. I'm saying
points in it. The second one was garbage. Honestly,
the second one was great.
Quack,
quack, baby.
Quack, quack.
I lost money on that game, Quincy, because of you guys. I had a parlay going, and all I needed was the Browns to win.
The Browns got like 2 pressures that entire game, like just 2 pressures the entire. It was
that's sad.
It was bad,
terrible, just awful. I remember what Carlos Dunlap that week for the Bengals doubled the production of the entire Browns defensive line that week. It's like how good is Myles Garrett that you guys are this sorry? Like honestly, everybody should have been cut that played defensive line for the Cleveland Browns after that, and then all the people that hired him should have been cut too. So, that's just terrible. Like you watch that game again. You just made me mad. There was one game that can't piss me off. All right, because that just made me mad.
We found the game.
We were out here. We were Sheldon Richardson at the edge. We were out here edge rushing Sheldon Richardson. Didn't know what to do.
You got no pass rushers. You got no pass rushers.
John Dorsey's going to figure out the defensive line. That's why he traded away Jannard Avery, because he's got solutions. All right. He ain't had no damn solutions. Emmanuel Ogba had more production on $900,000 a year than Olivier Vernon did on 15 million. You know what I mean? But Browns.
Anyways,
We found the spot. Anyway,
Yeah.
guys, again, share this channel, subscribe.
Yeah.
Make sure you hit that bell.
Get a win. What the hell is that?
We
You can
found
also-
this button.
Sonny, I also want to say if you can't find us live and you don't want to watch on YouTube, you can also find this as a podcast. So you can go on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you find podcasts. Search AFC North Talk. We put the episodes up there as well.
Follow me at DerrickHenry.com on Twitter.
At DerrickHenry.com.
Big Trust.
And you guys can all follow me at Joe Burrow on Twitter.
Joe Burrow. Guys,
love
thanks
it.
for watching. We'll see you next time.
Hey,
Peace.
did the Titans take away Big Trust officially?